Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today's video is going to be an updated version of the If I Could Only Keep One makeup tag. So this tag was actually started by Kelly Gooch a couple of years ago, and I actually remember filming this video a couple years ago around the time that she started the tag. And I wanted to film an updated version because I think it's a really fun premise. So basically the idea of this video is if you could only keep one makeup product from each category, which would you choose? And it's a little different from, say, picking your holy grail product from each category, because you're going to want to pick products that really you could see yourself not getting tired of forever, products that you wouldn't mind repurchasing over and over again as you run out of them. It's been probably over 2 years. I filmed that video in the very early days of my channel, so it's been a while since I've done this, and things have changed a lot. I was looking back at that original video, and it's kind of funny to think about, like, just how much my makeup preferences have changed. Fun fact, actually, sorry, there's a lot to cover before we get into it. Fun fact, I filmed this video a couple of weeks ago. It's probably 3-4 weeks ago at this point, and I decided to scrap it and like redo it when I felt like I was really ready, because that time that I filmed it, I changed my mind about like 3 of the products that I had chosen. So anyway, I've taken the last 3 weeks to really think about it and make sure that I'm sure about my choices, and I'm finally ready to like commit to these answers. So starting out with primer, I've never had a primer that I felt super strongly about, but the one that I'm really loving right now, and the one that I would be fine with only having this one, is the NYX High Glass Face Primer. This is kind of expensive for a drugstore primer. I think it's like $17 at full price. I really enjoy this one though. It is both hydrating and luminous, and it doesn't give quite as intense of that like glass skin glossy finish to your face, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. It's just a really nice luminous hydrating primer that I especially love with the foundation that I chose. And this might shock you, actually probably not if you watched my last favorites video, but if I could only keep one foundation, it would be the Pacifica A Light Clean Foundation. I have gone on a journey with this foundation, but only recently have I realized that I love this foundation, possibly even more than my all-time favorite Physicians Formula Healthy Foundation, which I wasn't going to pick for this video because A, that brand is kind of, their cruelty-free status is a little muddy, and also they, I think, are discontinuing that foundation, even though I think you can still buy it off their website. So I wasn't going to pick that anyway, but despite that, I even still think that I am starting to like this even more than that one. That one I love, especially when I first apply it, but by the end of the day, my skin looks textured, whereas this one doesn't do that. My skin looks beautiful and smooth even at the end of a long day of wear. I would be happy to keep this as my only foundation. It is fuller coverage. It does have kind of a dewy finish. But even though it's full coverage, I could totally actually mix this with the High Glass Primer if I wanted to make more of like a skin tint kind of product, or I can have the full coverage option. So I think that would be totally fine, and I would not really miss any of my other foundations if this was the only one I could keep. All right, so for concealer, this is another one that I've been on a bit of a journey with, but over time, as I've kind of tested and retested all my concealers, this continues to be my go-to kind of workhorse concealer, and it's the Too Faced Born This Way concealer. I've talked a lot of trash about this concealer over the like year and a half that I've had it. For a while, I was annoyed that it wasn't like super full coverage like it claims to be. But the more I've used it, the more I've realized it does have really good coverage. This is what I'm wearing on my under eyes today. Even with really pronounced dark circles like I have, it's hard. I don't think there is such a thing as full coverage. Anyway, that's what I've complained about in the past. But the more I've had it and used it, the more I have to admit I really do like it. And I feel like that sounds kind of silly. Out of all the times I've kind of said like, this isn't that good, it's not worth the hype. It's also a really good value. It's like half a fluid ounce, which is huge for concealer. For those reasons, I really wouldn't mind having this as my sole concealer, because most days this is what I reach for anyway. A lot of people love that concealer. For the longest time I was like, I don't get the hype, but now I kind of do. Okay, so for powder, this probably will come as no surprise because I've loved this one for a long time, but I would pick my E.L.F. Soft Luminance HD powder. I'm almost finished with this one. I tend to prefer loose setting powders. I just feel like they're the most kind of perfecting to the skin without looking heavy and powdery. I can use this on both my under eyes and my face, whereas I don't really like using pressed powders on my under eyes. Sometimes I do, but this is just the one that never fails me, and I love it, and it's like $6 and it lasts so long. All right, so the setting spray I would choose is also from E.L.F. This is their Dewy Setting Mist. I really love this setting mist, just about as much as I love the Pixie Glow Mist, which is saying a lot because that's been my holy grail for a very long time. But this one is like half the price of the Pixie one, so I would prefer to have this as my only setting spray and only be able to repurchase this one because I would save like $7 or $8 every time I purchase it. It does have a light coconut scent, which I really don't mind. I don't feel like the coconut bothers my skin either, so I love this one. It's really good. And I'm glad to have found a slightly cheaper alternative to the Glow Mist. Even though I still love the Glow Mist, I still own that one and really enjoy it, but this one's really good too. I would choose a cream contour stick. I have only tried 2 cream contour sticks in my life. I only own 2 currently. The Jordana one and the Oma Beauty one. The one I would have to choose is the Oma one. This one is just so buttery and creamy and blendable and smooth, and you can just draw it directly onto your cheekbones, sculpt out your face, blend it in with a brush or a sponge, whereas with the Jordana one, you have to kind of pick it up with a brush first and then apply it. It's not quite as smooth. This one's just so good. It's pricey, and it does come with a highlighter on the other end, even though I picked a different highlighter for the highlighter category, so I don't know if that's cheating. We're gonna pretend that it's not cheating because this is all hypothetical anyway, so just pretend that you can buy the contour shade individually, and that would be my choice. I also love the highlight side as well, but I would pick a different highlighter, which I'll talk about in just a moment. For bronzer, I would choose the Milani Silky Matte Bronzer in Sunkissed. For me, with bronzer, it really comes down to the shade. Some shades of bronzer just look whack on me. Like the Physicians Formula, I don't say whack very often. The Physicians Formula Butter Bronzer, there was something weird. It like pulled yellow on my skin. A lot of people have told me they've had the same problem with that one, even though that's like a cult favorite. Everybody loves that bronzer. I didn't love it. A lot of warm bronzers just aren't quite it for me. This one is a little bit more neutral toned, very, very smooth blendable formula. This is a very hyped up formula, and for good reason. I think it's a great bronzer formula. And I don't really wear bronzer that often these days, but when I do, this is my favorite one to wear. So that was not a hard decision at all. Okay, for blush, I'd have to pick my favorite blush, which is the Clove & Hallow Hydra Tint Serum Blush in the shade Blossom. I love this one because it's a neutral pink. It'll go with any look. It's just a delight to use. It's just so, I just love this blush. I've talked about it so much on my channel, but it just makes my cheeks look juicy and healthy and plump and not too clownish because it is such a light shade. This is like my dream blush shade right here, so I would never get tired of using this either. So the highlight I would pick is one of the shades from my favorite highlight formula ever. If you watch me regularly, you already know what formula that is, but I would have to go with the Becca highlighter in the shade Rose Quartz. I also love Champagne Pop, but I think Rose Quartz works even better with the most looks, just because it is a pink tone color. I do think I have slightly pinkish undertones, but then again, sometimes I think I have warm undertones. This is just a lovely formula. It's so smooth. It definitely packs a punch. You can apply a very small amount and get a more subtle look, or you can layer it on and get just a beautiful sheen going on. The lighting is doing interesting things right now. I'm using primarily natural lighting as I normally do. I'm just very lucky to have a wonderful window that gets great lighting throughout the day. But I also have one umbrella light over here just to brighten up this area because the window's over there. You don't need to know all this. You don't care, I'm sure. But anyway, the lighting is like coming this way for some reason, and it looks cool. Okay, so brow filling in product, I would go with my Anastasia Dip Brow Pomade. I absolutely love this. I've had this same one since the end of 2019. I still have heaps of product left, as British people would say. It was a little hard to get used to using a pomade when I was used to using a pencil, but I go through pencils so fast that this is already like paid for itself and more compared to pencils, and I've heard that people can have these for like years, like upwards of 3 years before it dries out. So I think it's an incredible value, even though it's a slightly higher price up front. It's a better deal in the long run than any other brow product. I know some drugstore pomades will dry up after a little while. haven't had any issues with that yet, and I've had it almost a year. I would also want to have a brow gel, which I do think of as a different category. I don't use brow gels to fill in my brows, I just use them to kind of top off my brows after I filled them in. I would pick the e.l.f. Wow Brow Gel in taupe. This is a wonderful brow gel. This is the second one that I've had. It is a fiber brow gel, although I don't really notice the fibers in my brows, but it holds my brows in place without them feeling crunchy. The tint is light enough that it doesn't get messy and weird, and yeah, I just love it. It's like $3. Maybe $4. Okay, for eyelid primer, I would absolutely keep an eyelid primer. Eyelid primer is a must for me. The one I would pick would probably just be the Milani one. I haven't had that one in a really long time. Currently, I'm using the Ulta one that I don't love as much, but the Milani one was just always a workhorse. It's a great one. Everybody loves that one, and it's like $7 a tube. So that's the one I would go for, even though I don't currently own it. Okay, so here's where it gets really juicy. Eyeshadow palette. Okay, this is the hard-hitting category. Interestingly enough, it was not hard for me to make my decision on this one. I would go with my Urban Decay Stone Vibes palette. I know, it sounds crazy, but also not really, because, okay, here's how I landed on this one. I love shimmer. I pretty much always do shimmery eye looks. I almost never do all matte. But I could do an all matte look with this if I so chose, because there are 4 mattes in here of varying depths. But my everyday go-to look is a light shimmer, maybe like a champagne or a rose gold or a light pink. This has several of those kind of lighter shimmer options, but I also love playing with jewel tones on my eyes, specifically blue, and lately green as well. So this has a really pretty royal blue, a green, it's got some light purples. I do love light purple. I don't really like a lot of purples on my eyes, but the purples in here I love. The shade Tiger's Eye is probably my favorite, but I also love Vibes, Meditate, Raw Energy. Those are like the lighter shimmers that I could use on my everyday looks, or I could have fun with some dramatic, colorful looks. Today I'm wearing actually a combo of this and the Billie Beauty Eyes of India palette on my eyes, but I mainly have the shade Oho on my outer, like 2/3, Opal Aura on my inner 1/3, and some of the mattes kind of blended in my crease, and then I have the blue from the Billie Beauty palette as like the base for my lid. I don't think I would get tired of this palette. I love those really, really foiled shimmers. That is just my jam. It has enough variety, even though it's a pretty small palette. Looking at my whole collection, I also considered like the e.l.f. Earth and Ocean palette, but that one has a very specific color family that it kind of stays in, whereas this one kind of goes in a few different directions, and it has the beautiful, intense foiled shimmers that I love and never get tired of wearing. I also thought about some of my neutral palettes, but those are just neutral, and I like to play with color sometimes, so it was an easy choice once I really thought about it. For eyeliner, I would just keep one black liquid liner. I enjoy doing a winged liner on occasion. I don't really use pencil liner all that much, although it's funny, I did actually use a pencil liner to tightline today. But the black liquid liner I would keep is just this Jordana cat eyeliner. This one is fine, it's just whatever, but it is kind of a workhorse for me. I've had this same one since last summer, which is probably too long to be keeping an eyeliner, but here we are. It still hasn't dried up, it's still kicking, and it's a very opaque black. It doesn't fade or smudge throughout the day. It has great staying power. So all the things that I need in a liquid liner, this is it, and it's really inexpensive, so not too exciting, but that's the liner I would keep. For mascara, I would keep one that I don't currently have. It's one that I've already used up and will eventually repurchase, but it's the e.l.f. Keep Your Curl. I love that one. I love the brush. I love the formula. It's very lengthening. It just does great things for my lashes, and I love it. So that's the one I would keep. Plus, it's only $5, so I would not mind at all having to repurchase a $5 mascara versus a more expensive one. Yeah, that was an easy answer as well. Okay, so for the lips, I did decide to choose a lip liner, a lipstick, and a lip gloss, and I wanted to try to create as much variety within these 3 picks as I could. You guys know I love having a lot of lip options, so I'm trying to kind of think, okay, where would I get the most, like, possibilities. So the lip liner I would choose to keep is the Jordana lip liner in Rock and Rose. This is like a $2 or $3 lip liner, and it's just a great liner formula. I've loved it for years. I've only recently had this particular shade, but I love this shade. It's like a brownish rose. It's what I'm wearing. It's the only thing I'm wearing on my lips right now. And this would kind of be something that I could use as a lip liner with like the gloss that I chose, or I could just wear it completely on its own. And this would be like my nude lip go-to. The lipstick I would choose, so if I could only keep one color of lipstick, it would absolutely be red, because that is my favorite color of lipstick to wear. It's so classic and fun. And I think it makes sense to keep a bold lipstick as opposed to a nude, because if I want a nude, then I'll just wear a gloss or the liner, or just not wear anything because my lips are already nude colored to begin with. So the lipstick I would keep is actually the E.L.F. moisturizing lipstick in Red Carpet. So this is a really, really nice formula. I love that it is indeed moisturizing like it says. The color is just a very classic red, and what I like about this formula is that it can go on kind of sheer when you first apply it, so I could have a nice sheer wash of red, or you can build it up to be more opaque and have like a full-on beautiful retro red lip. Yeah, I would be very happy to have that as my only lipstick. And then the gloss I would pick, again, I'm trying to have a variety here. So I would actually go with the ColourPop Ultra Glossy Lip in the shade Champagne Mommy. Now, the only thing I don't like about this lip gloss is the applicator. It has an annoying brush tip, which I've talked about many times. I wish it would just be a doe foot, but that's okay, because I absolutely love this color. It is a nice sheer peachy rose gold lip gloss, and so this way I would have a kind of dusty rose nude, a red, and a sheer peachy lip gloss. So 3 very different lip looks to choose from, but I could also top either of these with this to kind of customize my look. So I feel like this would be the smartest combo to keep, even though they're all 3 very different. I like that because that gives me some choices. And so that is every category. This was really fun to think about. Let me know if you were surprised by any of my answers. I surprised myself with a few of these answers, but overall, looking at all these products, if I were like a true minimalist, that's kind of like my fantasy self, if I could actually be a true minimalist, which I don't think I ever will be, but this would be like the minimalist makeup collection that I would want. If you enjoyed this video, definitely make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. I'd love to see you again very soon, and hopefully I'll talk to you in my next video.